Aly Calvo, and I'm Andrea Colbert. And this is Legacy. If you're coming to compete this weekend, I just want you to have fun. You're ready, you're equipped, you are capable, and this is your moment. You have already done the training. I got to perform at the iconic Wembley Arena. That's a big deal. The Legacy Cheer and Dance season starts now.
This is unbelievable. We have to have a podcast.
We're twins from Texas, and we built this massive brand in the United Kingdom in a super niche sport.
I mean, competitive cheerleading. Come on.
100%. And so we took this competitive cheerleading, this niche sport, and we literally filled arenas.
Wembley Arena, by the way, in the United Kingdom. So
Yes,
hello, Wembley.
Hello, Wembley. Yes, but this podcast is not about cheerleading. It really is, Andrea, it's behind the scenes, the stories of how we do that, and the people and the culture and the experiences.
Well, I love those adventures, and I love the adversity altogether, because it really is the fuel for anyone listening to these stories. First of all, they're amazing and they're fun. But for anyone listening to these stories, it's really fuel to build the life that you're proud of and build a business that you're proud of and live your legacy. And that's what L3 is all about. Lead boldly, love deeply, live your legacy. The L3 podcast. Let's jump in.
Okay, so jumping in here, I want to start, Andrea, by introducing you, if you don't mind, everyone. This is my twin sister, Andrea. I know we don't look identical right now, but we actually are. We're 7 minutes apart. She likes to remind me that I'm the older one.
Well, you were born first because I kicked you out. So
thank you very much. But here's the thing. I think one of the most inspiring and cool things about Andrea that everyone needs to know straight up front is that, we were born 2.5 months prematurely. And on that day, Andrea received too much oxygen in the incubator. So that made her legally blind. She's totally blind in her right eye. She's partially blind in her left eye. Her right eye is actually a prosthesis. So you'll hear all about that on the pod. But I think it's super inspiring. But also I think one of the neatest things, Andrea, about you is the way that you've adapted is just really tremendous. It's very cool to watch. And throughout your disability, that has made such a big difference in the lives of so many. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And also your heart. Your heart is so full of empathy. But here's the big thing about you, and I think this is just hardwired in you. You have this hardwired optimism that is a joy to be around. So that will come through. Andrea is a light to everyone that she meets, and you guys are going to see that right away. I'm happy to be able to work with you. I'm happy to be your sister, happy to be your friend. This is going to be so much fun on the L3 podcast.
Well, thank you. That's very kind words. And I'm excited to have the same opportunity with you, because now that I get to introduce you to our friends here on the podcast at L3, Aly is one of the strongest people I've ever met in my life. Not just physically, emotionally, mentally, all of the stuff. Aly is a rock of consistency. She's a rock of grit, and she's perseverant, and all of the things that you would need in a friend, a loyal friend, a sister, a podcast host, a business owner, an entrepreneur, a mom, all of the things. And she's also one of those people that has the gift of curiosity to the extent that it will not just enhance this podcast, because you're going to ask all the questions, and
I'm going to have a lot of questions.
You're going to have a lot of questions. You're going to learn all the
Get
stuff.
ready.
But I also think it just makes the lives of others around you deeper, because you take time to know the people around you versus just the surface. And I think that's a big deal. I can't wait to explore that on the L3 podcast with you. So everybody, this is Aly.
Thank you. Let's talk, Andrea, because we have to jump in with the most obvious question that pretty much everybody asks when they hear what we did with Legacy. And so I want to give it some context. How did it happen that these two women from Texas decided to build this thing over an ocean? Why weren't we here in America? Why, all of the questions that let's just Start there for
Well, we
context.
could have taken an easier path. I'll promise
We
you that.
definitely
That's
could
for
have
sure.
taken an easier path, but it
We
would have
could
not
have.
have been nearly as fun.
No, it would have not have been
Yeah.
nearly as fun. So,
Okay, so give it some context.
well, we started cheerleading in junior high, and then we went through high school and college at the University of Texas. Being a cheerleader there was such an amazing journey. But really, that was supposed to be the end of the journey because at that time, cheerleading really wasn't a career path. It certainly wasn't on our radar. So you and I kind of went separate ways and lived different lives during that time. But in 2000, I was doing a little consulting here and there and training some coaches. And in 2000, England called, and I got the opportunity to go over there and help shape the beginning of the international development of competitive cheerleading and dance. And it was in different iterations, and we'll talk about that along the journey in the podcast, but different iterations over time. And you were involved to a certain degree in that as well. And then in 2013, Aly and I formed Legacy Cheer and Dance, which we just called Legacy. It's the best journey that I can imagine because it was our labor of love to give back to the sport that had given us so much, but also do it in a way that was bigger than cheerleading. It was really all about building leaders for life. And congratulations if you can do some cool flips and twisting things and do some pyramids and be a little Cirque du Soleil kind of stuff. But what I really want to know is what kind of person you're going to be when you come out of it. I want to know how that's going to change your life and how that will impact you. And so for us, that's been a wonderful journey of love that's been a joy to be a part of. But it hasn't, I know we just said we fill arenas, and we do, and that's amazing. But it hasn't been a simple or easy journey. Like I said, we definitely did it the hard way. Living in
Mm,
Texas, doing this over the ocean, but we've learned a lot. You know, I feel like we've been in situations where we didn't know how we were going to pay the bills next. That can happen in entrepreneurial world. We had a situation where the ceiling fell in, and in the middle of an event, we had a electrical fire with a arena full of people.
yeah.
Things were happening. We had one time where we
Mhm.
were in a situation where you and I were sitting across the table from some men who are in kind of the corporate side of the industry and saying, we said to them, this is what we need to happen. This is what we need to do to serve our community and serve our people. And they literally laughed at us and we're saying, that's impossible. And we just kind of went, but it's important and it matters. And so watch us. And so that's what we did. That's really what Legacy was
That
built.
is
So we learned
exactly
a lot
what
of
we did.
lessons along the way because what?
That is exactly what we did. When they said that's impossible and they laughed, that is exactly the fuel.
And I learned a lot along the way too. With my disability, especially as an entrepreneur, I learned a lot about what grit looks like and what perseverance looks like and what adaptability looks like. I know that I was a single parent through this entire process, learning to figure that part out as well. And like I said, you were balancing life with young kids as well, and we had
Mhm.
all these things going on, but we had to figure it out.
You know, as hear you say that, Andrea, and I look back on the journey we've had at Legacy, I'm really proud of what we've
Mhm.
built, and I'm proud of our team, and I'm proud of our people and the culture and the the experiences that we've been able to deliver. And I think that was so predicated upon the fact that we were so clear on why we wanted to do this, on the impact that we wanted to make. We were very clear on that why long before we understood the logistics and the things that were happening to fill these giant arenas that we were talking about. And so to be able to take those experiences and those behind the scenes and bring it to a podcast and bring it to this community that is coming along in a way that says, yay, you've done all of these things and this is wonderful, but that is so meaningless if we don't honor our responsibility to build up that generation behind us and to build this community in such a way that says, hey, listen, this is how we did this and that's great, but the method is really simple because it's our very simple L3 method of leadership, and it's 3 steps that help you build a life that you're proud of. And yes, we are really proud of our business and we're proud of our team and the experiences like we just talked about. But that means nothing if we haven't done that for you, our community, our listeners, our followers. And so that's what I'm so happy to bring along the L3 community and this podcast specifically.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the 3 steps of what that looks like. And I want to talk specifically about what L3 even is, because if you're here having a conversation with us today and you're kind of in that space, which a lot of us can be in, where you're underestimating the greatness that you have in your life, or you know you have it, but you don't know how to get it. Maybe you're feeling the overwhelm or the stuck. That's the conversation that we're having with L3. It's all about leading boldly and loving deeply and living your legacy, but it's even bigger than that. And that's why I want to break it down with the conversation.
Is bigger than that, but it's also more simple than that. And that's what's so
Mhm.
neat about our L3
Yeah.
method, because it is so simple. You don't realize how impactful and how much it touches your daily life every single day from wherever you are. Whether you're a parent leading your family, whether you're a coach, whether you are starting your own business, whether you're a teacher, all of the scenarios where you
Here's
are
the
in
people that
a
I imagine this being it for, Allie. I'm just going to jump in because I remember distinctly one time, it was in the beginning of building legacy. So we were in the
Mhm.
very early entrepreneurial side of this. And I had a young child on my hip. So it was Caitlin. I was holding my daughter on my hip, my left hip, fully extended my right hand so that I could be really far away from the stove because I needed to stir the macaroni so it wouldn't boil over. And I had a phone call. So I had a little headset back in the day when we'd have the headset on our head. So I had the little headset and the Britney Spears
Old
mic going
school.
in. Yeah, I had the Britney
Uh-huh.
Spears mic with the daughter on the left hip, my arm fully
I know
straight so I'd
exactly
make
what you're
sure I
talking
didn't
about. Yep.
like health and safety, you got to watch out for the kid in the stove too close, right? So I'm stirring the pot, talking on the phone. I was teaching somebody how to do a specific skill in cheerleading while I stirred the pot and held a kid. And I think when we think about that, I look back and I think there are so many people in the world who are doing versions of that, who are trying to figure out, how do I serve my family? How do I serve my dreams? How do I serve the people around me? How do I make the impact I want to make? And it kind of can get in the mud of, I know what I want, or maybe I think I know what I want, but I'm not sure. And then I don't know how. And by the way, I'm tired because I don't have enough hours in the day because all of the stuff. So I think my
But I also
encouragement
see
to
the
you,
version, Andrea, I have to say, I also see the version of that very same person. Fast forward 15, 18 years. And then all of a sudden, they're in this empty nest and they go, wow. And they look back and go, wow, I wish I would have done something differently. What am I left with?
yeah,
And the intentionality behind what we do has never been more important, especially this day and age. So I want to talk about the L3 method specifically, how simple it is, because I just am really clear that I want everybody to build a life that they're proud of. But that does not happen by accident. It has to be intentional. And this is the tool. Our L3 method is the tool that you can use. It's a framework that you can put into play any day so simply and so effectively that you will never look back and go, man, I wish I did enough. I wish I would have done something differently. So let's talk about what that is. So the L3 method is very simple. At the very foundation, it is step one, defining exactly what matters to you, what you want to be known for, and what you stand for. Super simple. There's a way to do it, but that's step one. Step two is to deploy the very specific science backed and proven character traits that we call the L3 character traits. And you're deploying those specific character traits to stay in alignment with what you defined mattered to you in step one. This is the legacy that you are building and the character traits that you are using to stay in alignment with that. In step three is simply turn all of that into a verb. That means get really clear on what you stand for. Here are the character traits you're going to use to do it. And then it has to be lived out. It is an action, it is a verb. And so every single day and in every single moment, we can look at ourselves and go, am I showing up exactly how I want to be right now? Am I being exactly how I want to be? All of that is defined in step one of your L3 method of leadership. And so I want to pause for a minute here, Andrea, because character first leadership is such a key part in the Lead Love Legacy format and framework.
Yeah.
So, and the reason that's the case is because that was so important for us both in our company, but also personally. And we understood the impact we wanted to make, and we understood the character traits that were going to matter in that. And those character traits are the things that give all of us a competitive advantage. And so they're quite proven. So will you talk to me about, or talk to all of us about, why is character so much more important than just performance itself?
Well, without character, everything else is irrelevant. That's just the bottom line. So you can have all the success in the world, and if you haven't built the character behind it as the skeleton to hold up the muscles, then nothing will be sustainable and nothing will be lasting as a legacy. So you can say that all you want, but it really does matter. And you were talking just a minute ago about making everything a verb. And so there is an accountability to what character looks like. And we're going to talk a lot on this conversation, but in the nature of sport in general, for example, because we're doing competitive cheerleading, sport in general, integrity is everything. The scoring system has to be the scoring system. The judging process has to be the judging process. And there's an adjudication system that makes it work. And then there's a review process. If everyone wants to argue about scores, because every sport does that, you can look at NFL, you can look at NBA, you can look at MLB. Everyone has an opinion, but there's still a structure to create, to the best of the ability of the sport, an integrity component. And that's where that character can lie. So without that, nothing matters. You can look good on the surface, but if it's not done on the up and up, that changes the game.
I agree, Andrea, and I think it's really important to note here that the character first leadership component of L3 and everything that we built, it really came about because we wanted to find a way to be able to give you that competitive advantage.
Yes, I want to talk about what it is.
Hey, if you love this episode of the L3 podcast, share it with your friends. And don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you watch your podcasts. All right, Andrea, so that's the method, but I want to dig a little deeper for you because this is so personal.
Here's your curiosity coming out. You said...
I told you I was going to have a million questions. This is the easy part. Get ready. This is an easy one. You'll hear us say, lead boldly, love deeply, live your legacy. When we're talking about Lead Love Legacy, or L3 for short, when I say lead boldly, what comes to mind for you? What does that mean to you specifically?
It means leading founded in your why without any abandon for anything else. It's that kind of leadership that says, I know what I want, what I'm intended for, what I deserve, why I deserve it, and now I'm going to make it a verb and go do it. And leading boldly with that why tied into it is the fuel to do the things you need to do when you don't even want to do them. When you're tired, or when you're overwhelmed, or when you're trying to figure out how to delegate to get the help that you need. It's that time when, for example, we were building an arena one time and putting all the cheerleading gymnastics floors, we were putting them down. And there was a bunch of 18-wheelers coming in to the arena, and somebody messed up on logistics, and the entire floor for that held the whole competition. It's like the stage didn't show up because somebody booked something wrong and there was a problem or something happened. And so we were in this situation where here it is, 6 p.m. the night before the event was going to start at 7 in the morning. We had no stage. And I just basically said, okay, inhale, exhale. I didn't panic. I was really calm. And I just kind of went through the scenario in my head. And I said, okay, everybody. And I just talked to the crew. I said, everybody, go back to the hotel, take a nap. And I want you to sleep as long as you can sleep. And then at 2 a.m. when the truck gets here, you can come back. I will have really good food for you. We did good catering, and we're going to come in and build this thing overnight because the show must go on. And everything got resolved, but it was kind of one of those moments where we could have just totally imploded because there's no stage and there's thousands of people showing up in the morning and they're going to be really mad if there's no stage. Or we could just regroup and use the talents and the skill and the why of the people who are with us and build that team mentality. And to this day, even though it was a little bit stressful, well, okay, it was a lot stressful at the time, but to this day, and this was 10, 15 years ago, to this day, everyone who was a part of that day can be proud of and will look back with fond memories going, remember that time, remember that time. And they solved it and they felt proud because that happened and we took care of them and we fed them and we gave them bonuses and let them sleep later. Like these things, that's what leading boldly looks like, because we were able to kind of regulate our emotions, troubleshoot, delegate, make the decisions that need to be made, and pull each other together and lean into the autonomy that everyone had to do the jobs that they were good at. And in the end of the day, it ended up being a successful thing. So that's just an example of what leading boldly looks like. But I think it takes a lot of shape in a lot of ways. But
Sure.
it's part of the world that we all live in.
I also I love that, and I remember that, and I love that everybody remembers that.
They can't
And I
forget.
love that it never happened again. So, but I also agree that, leading is one thing, but leading boldly just feels different.
Yeah.
And I have never seen a successful mission of any kind happen without just either this absolute fear of what's about to happen, or knowing absolutely zero of what's about to happen, and then just having to figure everything out.
Well, isn't that
And for
life? You don't know
me,
what's going to happen in life.
exactly. And you don't ever have this crystal ball. And I think being able to look at that fear and that uncertainty and know that people are counting on you, and the
Yeah.
mission and the why depends on you. When you have that understanding and you're very clear about that as a leader, it becomes very, very powerful. And when you can look at that and say, let's go and do it anyway, I think you just open the door, because beyond that fear, that it takes so much courage. And that is the bold part of leading boldly, is really owning the courage of what it takes to face all of that and to go forth with all of what you have around you, with the incredible team you have around you and the incredible people that you have around you, to be able to
Or
do
the
that
people
in
that
such
you're
a
putting
way.
around you, because not everyone has a massive team. You might be building a team in your family. You might be your team
Mhm.
is your you. When I
Well,
was a
in the
single
beginning,
mom, it was me and
it's
the
you
kids.
in yes, in the
You
beginning,
know,
it's just you. But to be able to do that, you have to be able to lead boldly with with a clarity on your why. And it's so much bigger than just leading. It's just the biggest component of leading boldly.
which brings us to loving deeply, because once you know where you're going and why you're leading boldly, part of the process of that is loving deeply, and loving deeply in all the capacities that love looks like: the actionable, visible, over time, consistent, out loud way of loving people. And it's easy to say loving a spouse or a partner, but we're talking about, or loving siblings like you and I have. But love looks different in different forms for different
Mm.
ways. And I don't think we use the term love enough in the entrepreneurial or the real business world, because there's still that capacity to make it where it feels too soft. But in the world where hard skills are important and those visible analytics and KPIs matter, the soft skills matter first. And I think that's what drives those hard skills and that data. So if we're talking about loving deeply, it really is, loving deeply is a verb. It's the action. It's the on time, every time, showing up when you need to show up, being present, being on the mission, being on why, doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, in the times where it's hard and you might not want to do it, and in the times where it's super fun. It's multiplying the joys and dividing the difficulties with the people around you. And I love that math equation for what loving deeply looks like, because that's how it comes out in real life. If you think about the circumstances where you feel loved, you love and feel loved, it's because the people around you are multiplying your joys and dividing the difficulties.
I love that. Andrea, let's talk about the key component, saving the best for last. What does it really mean to you to live your legacy?
Living your legacy out loud is when your why gets put into a verb and then it becomes something that you can see the painting of your life on the wall. And that's just how it feels. It's in color, it's out loud, it's for the world to see and enjoy and appreciate, and also empowers them and inspires them to paint their own paintings of their own legacy and their own lives and the impacts that they want to make. That's what it means to me. It's putting it out there. A lot of people say, oh, you're blind, but you're visionary. Well, being visionary comes with an accountability where you have to be actionable and you have to do the things that it takes to execute on that vision so that it becomes something that is lived out loud, that it becomes an impact, that becomes a measurable thing in the business world or a measurable thing in the relationships that we have with our family and friends and our loved ones. And it becomes something that is what lasts beyond our lifetime. And I think for us to be able to have these conversations and share that and let everyone know who hears this conversation that you too are not only worthy of the greatness and success that you would like to have in your life, but you have a responsibility to create that for yourself, because we're all so busy in this world of negative and mean comments on the internet. We're always here seeking that, or waiting for permission. We're seeking validation. And in reality, why are we waiting? Why are we getting permission to be great when we don't have permission to not be great? We've been given this life. We've been given this tools. We've been given a set of skills that are unique to us. And we have the full autonomy and the agency in our lives to create that for ourselves. And not only do we not need permission from people, we don't have permission to just let it flop on the table. Like, it is time for us to stand up and do what we need to do in our lives to make the impact that we're capable of making and deserve the success that we deserve. I'm excited about what L3 has in store, Aly. So what are you excited about?
Ooh, I'm most excited, Andrea, about the entire L3 community, because the story of legacy was just scratching the surface. And now we get to use the story of legacy, but all of the strategies and the character traits and the core beliefs that we deployed to make that work in such a magical way, we get to use that to help the L3 community now that we're starting to build, to help every one of you, all of our followers and listeners and our audience, build this really incredible life that you are proud of, whatever that looks like for you, because the framework is so simple, but the impact is so huge. And I'm most excited about that because as leaders, unless we have built other leaders up behind us, we have not done our job. And so this responsibility that I feel such a powerful pull to is to build that generation up behind us. And that includes everyone here with us in the community now. And I'm thrilled to be able to do that. I'm thrilled to be able to do that with you. And I cannot wait to see what happens next. I can't wait to hear everyone's stories about how they're using the specific 3 steps. And it's going to be really, really fun.
So exciting. So many stories, so many lives about to change, so many adventures we are going to have together, all of the places we're going to bring you, all of the things that you get to share with us. We can't wait to see your journey and your successes as well. Thanks for joining us here on the L3 podcast, where we are leading boldly, loving deeply, living your legacy. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us today on the Lead, Love, Legacy podcast.
Remember, lead boldly, love deeply, and live your legacy.
If this episode encouraged you, like and subscribe and share it with someone who needs it.
And join us next time as we continue to build leaders and legacies for life.